सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्. Yesterday we stopped. A wise person cannot emulate based on action. Should I go back and read this heading? Now, why should I perform karma? Okay, I'll start reading from here. Why should I perform karma? The question may be then asked, why did Shruti not say this in the beginning? If it had done so, I need not have done all this karma. I did the morning and the evening prayers because the Veda said to do. Do them, and I had faith in the Veda. Now, I find that these karmas have become a colossal waste because at the end of it all, the Veda tells me that I am Brahman and that karma is of no use. If karma will not give me moksha, why did it not say so in the beginning? The reason the Veda did not tell you right in the beginning that you are Brahman is because you have to be ready for this knowledge. By performing karma, you are able to eventually get to the last chapter of Veda and understand what it says. By not performing karma, you will be neither jnani nor a devout person. You will only be driftwood with no moorings whatsoever. Whatso, whatsoever. The rule is that those who are not ready for the knowledge should not be disturbed with it. We will see this later in the Gita. Instead, people are encouraged to perform karma in order to prepare their minds for the knowledge. They are told about Swarga, heaven, in the beginning, so that they will perform the enjoined rituals for gaining Swarga. In this way, they will definitely avoid Papa and Punya will follow. The person who performs karma will have a value for dharma, adharma, right and wrong, and will come to believe that there is an Atma, a self, other than the body. That much is enough in the beginning. Once you respect dharma, adharma, the ability to discriminate between the real and the unreal will not be far behind. The respect to respect dharma adharma is not to be swayed by your raga dveshas. To respect dharma adharma is not to be swayed by your raga dveshas. Therefore, the pressure of raga dveshas will be less. This is what is meant by viveka. Viveka begins as soon as you start to question what is what. First, there is an internal leisure, and then Viveka naturally comes. Once Viveka is there, you will naturally turn to Vedanta. Only in this way you can proceed properly. Therefore, as long as self ignorance is there, one should perform karma. Whereas once there is a self knowledge, there is renunciation of karma, sarva karma sannyasa. Shankara repeats this argument throughout his commentary on the Gita. This is because there was a notion prevalent in his days that the Veda enjoins one, one to do karma and at the same time to gain knowledge that I am Brahman. This position maintains that both will give you moksha and is refuted by Shankara at every opportunity. Or, if either karma or jnana is adequate for moksha, why should anyone do the other? If moksha is something that I produce, why do I need jnana? And if karma is not going to produce moksha, there is no reason to do karma. If I am Brahman and I merely need to know it, which is Shankara's contention, then jnana is moksha and I do not need to do anything. Thus, the question, why should one do karma? The answer is that one performs karma in order to purify the mind for chitta shuddhi. Chitta means mind. We have seen the word shuddhi with reference to ragadveshas. Reality is already accomplished. It is not something to be created. Reality is. Whatever the reality, that is what is. It is a thing to be recognized. Therefore, even if you do millions of karmas, you do not create the reality that exists. Because of the prevalence in Shankara's time of the synthesis, argument of combining karma and jnana, he goes all out to clarify the difference between karma and jnana. There are certain topics that every teacher has to highlight. Given the views of his or her time, in Shankara's time, the Jnana and Samuchayavada, the contention that moksha is not gained by knowledge alone, but by combination of knowledge and action was widespread. Therefore, he found it necessary to refute it by continually pointing out the fallacies in it. This is the job of teacher. Here also Shankara points out that karma applied only until knowledge comes. For one who does not have knowledge, the karma enjoined by Veda is a valid pramana, whereas for the wise person it is not. Once the jnana is there, the person is simple sannyasi, one who is not a doer, and therefore one for whom no karma is enjoined by any shastra. A wise person cannot be emulated based on action. Since a wise person does not do karma, you cannot emulate him or her. You cannot say that because he or she does not do karma, you will not do karma. The wise person does not perform karma because the need to do so is no longer there. Because you still need to perform karma, you cannot imitate a wise person in this respect. Krishna did not say that the wise person is one who does not do any karma. To say that this person has no duty whatsoever could be interpreted by Mumukshu in such a way that he or she would not live a life of karma yoga and instead would become nothing more than a lazy person. This is why Krishna pointed out here that for a wise person, night is what is day for everyone else. This is why Krishna pointed out here that for a wise person, night is what is day for everyone else, meaning that no karma is enjoined. What is what is a means of knowledge? Pramana for you is not a pramana for the wise person. In fact, what Krishna was saying here is that you that for the wise there is no pramana at all. Even the usefulness of the last pramana, Vedanta, is over for them. I'll read this again. This is why Krishna pointed out here that for the wise person, night is what is day for everyone else, meaning that no karma is enjoined. What is a means of knowledge, pramana for you, is not a pramana for the wise person. In fact, what Krishna was saying here is that for the wise, there is no pramana at all. Even the usefulness of the last pramana, Vedanta, is over for them. Vedanta says that you are Brahman. Until you know this, Vedanta is pramana, and afterwards it too becomes mithya. With knowledge, there is no means of knowledge, known or knower. The difference between these three having been swallowed, the pramana, the means of knowledge, is gone. It is Brahman, as are the pramata, the knower, the prameya, the object to be known. The very knower is cancelled by the knowledge that says you are not a knower. Resolution of the knower, known knowledge. Shankara says that the final pramana, the statement Tat Tvam Asi, itself goes away, having dismissed the pramana. An example generally given to illustrate how the knowledge works is method of using a thorn to remove the thorn that is lodged in one's foot. Once the thorn is removed, we discard both the thorns. There is also a more interesting example used. When a body is cremated, a huge funeral pyre is made out of wood. If the person who died was rich, the pyre will be made up of sandalwood. But this is the only difference. When the pyre is ready, the body is placed on it, covered with husks and small pieces of wood, and then fire is lit. Once the body has caught fire, the people who came for the ritual all go away. But the ritual itself is still incomplete and continues the next day when the person performing the ritual comes to pick up the ashes and the bones. This person is either the departed one's eldest son or a cousin, someone who is closely related. When this person comes to pick up the ashes, there should be no portion of the body left unburned. It must be burnt thoroughly. There should be nothing remaining but the ashes and the bones. Until this happens, the ritual is incomplete. The person in charge of the cremation ground is the one who must ensure that the body is completely burnt, because the body is not to be touched and being in the fire cannot be handled. A stick is used for this purpose. Once the person is sure that the body is completely burnt, he throws the stick into the funeral fire. Having done its job, the stick also gets burnt. Similarly, the statement you are that tat tvam asi is a pramana. The pramata, the knower, you, the jiva, is told you are Brahman. If you are Brahman, there is no knower. After this knowledge takes place, the pramata is just an as though pramata. There is no real pramata anymore. When the knower is told, you are not a knower, you are Brahman. The knower is sublated. And when the knower is not there, where is pramana? It too goes. All three, the knower, known, and means of knowledge are understood to be Brahman. All three, the knower, known, and means of knowledge are understood to be Brahman. All duality goes in the wake of this knowledge, including the knower, the known, and the knowledge itself. The known, the prameya is gone because there is nothing to know. Once the knowledge takes place, all three, pramata, prameya, pramana, become meaningless. Therefore, all the knower, known, knowledge activities resolve in the wake of knowledge that I am Brahman. This is what Krishna meant when he said that what is day for everyone else is night for the wise person. This was alone conveyed by Shankara in his commentary. All translations, therefore, should be read with this meaning in the mind. Emulate the values of a wise person. Any description of a person of a steady wisdom, sthita prajna, is useless, really speaking. We can only talk about the wisdom prajna that makes a person wise. Unless you have this wisdom yourself, you cannot understand what a wise person is. A Mahatma knows a Mahatma, whereas one who is not Mahatma cannot appreciate Mahatma. Therefore, any description other than an unfoldment of the wisdom that makes such a person wise is really meaningless. But still, Arjuna wanted a description. He also wanted to know how a wise person reacts to the world. In his response, Krishna told Arjuna certain things, including the fact that one cannot emulate wise person except in so far as values are concerned. The wise person may not perform Vedic rituals. For such a person, these karmas are no longer necessary because the previous performance of the scriptural injunctions has found its fulfillment in wisdom. Whether the person has taken sannyasa or not, he or she is a sarva karma sannyasi. The doership is already negated in the person. There is no real doer, and when there is no real doer, there is no real karma. In this way, the wise person is not bound by duty of any kind. To emulate a wise person, therefore, is dangerous. Krishna mentioned the mind, values, control, and mastery of a wise person because these alone are to be emulated. In this way, Krishna confirmed for Arjuna that the characteristics of a wise person, as demonstrated in his or her interactions in day to day life, can become the means and the sadhana for a seeker. Krishna confirmed for Arjuna that the characteristics of a wise person, as demonstrated in his or her interactions in day to day life, can become the means, the sadhana for a seeker. Finally, Krishna said that a wise person is as different from an ajnani as the day is from night, meaning that there is no way of unfolding what a wise person is. What is night for all the people is day for the wise, and what is day for them is night for the wise, to the wise. I'll read this again. Finally, Krishna said that a wise person is as different from an ajnani as day is from night, meaning that there is no way of unfolding what a wise person is. What is night for all the people is a day for wise, and what is day for them is night to the wise. Arjuna was bound to be flabbergasted by this. He was definitely not going to be any wiser for having heard this particular verse. Therefore, out of sympathy and compassion, Krishna followed his night and day example with another example, an illustration that Arjuna could hold on to, and one that would enable him to appreciate in a way what a wise person is. Therefore, out of sympathy and compassion, Krishna followed his night and day example with another example, an illustration that Arjuna could hold on to, and one that would enable him to appreciate in a way what a wise person is. Should I read the shloka or you want to do Manana over here? आपूर्यमाणमचलप्रतिष्ठं समुद्रमापः प्रविशन्ति यद्वत् तद्वत्कामायं प्रविशन्ति सर्वे स शान्तिमा स शान्तिमाप्नोति न कामकामी आपूर्यमाणम् अचलप्रतिष्ठं समुद्रमापः प्रविशन्ति यद्वत् तद्वत्कामायं प्रविशन्ति सर्वे स शान्तिमाप्नोति न कामकामी आपूर्यमाणं brimful, achala pratishtham, without any notion, without any motion, well grounded, samudram, into this ocean, apaha, waters, yadvata, just as, pravishanti, enter, tadvata, so too, sarve, all, kamaha, objects, yam, the one, the wise person, into whom, yam, the one, the wise person, into whom, pravishanti, enter, saha, he, shantim, peace, apnoti gains, kamakami, the desirer of objects, na, not. Just as water flows into ocean that is brimful and still, so too the wise person into whom all objects enter gains peace, remains unchanged, whereas the desirer of objects does not gain peace. There are two adjectives describing the ocean in this verse. The first one, apuryamanam, refers to the ocean being totally filled with water. Apuryamanam refers to the ocean being totally filled with water. It requires no more water to be full because it is already filled with to the brim. The second adjective, achala pratishtham. Achala pratishtham describes the ocean as not moving from place to place in the same way that a river does. For example, thus the ocean is not only full but being without motion, it is also well grounded. There are two adjectives describing the ocean in this verse. The first one, apuryamanam, refers to the ocean being totally filled with water. It requires no more water to be full because it is already filled to the brim. The second adjective, achal, uh, uh, achala pratishtham, describes the ocean as not moving from place to place in the same way that a river does. For example, thus the ocean is not only full but being without motion. It is also well grounded. The verse also gives some more information about the ocean. While a pond depends upon a source of water for its existence, the ocean does not depend upon any other source of water for its fullness. It does not depend upon the rains for its oceanness, unlike the rain clouds that depend upon the evaporation of the ocean water for their cloudness. Nor does the ocean depend upon any entry of water. It does not become an ocean because river water enters into it. Thus, to be brimful, it depends on no other factor, no other source of water. The glory of the ocean then is within itself alone. Water enters the ocean from all sides in the form of rain and rivers. But does the entry of these various forms of water bring about any change in the fullness of the ocean? If it does, then we can say that the ocean is not full, that it depends upon other sources for its oceanness. And if no change is brought about by the ocean entering into it, then ocean is full by itself and the non-entry of water will make no difference in its fullness. By itself, then the ocean is full of water because it does not depend upon any source of water for its fullness. Neither the non entry nor the entry of water makes any difference to it. The ocean is not after the entry of water, nor is it afraid of water entering into it. It has no fear of becoming flooded and thereby losing its name ocean, nor, in order to be ocean, does it covet water. A pond, on the other hand, does depend upon rain or some other water to be a pond. Excuse me. If a pond is dependent upon a particular spring underneath, if the pond is dependent upon a particular spring underneath it, for instance, all that is required for it not to be pond is for someone to put bore wells all around. The water table will go down, the spring will go dry, and there will be no water in the pond. A pond can also cease to be pond if too much water enters into it. If its banks are broken, there will be water everywhere. No one will know where the pond is unless they are wading in the water and suddenly step into it. Therefore, a pond will no longer be called a pond if there is too much water entering into it, or if no water enters into it at all. Such changes are possible for a pond, whereas an ocean undergoes no change whatsoever, regardless of whether water enters or does not enter. The wise person. Just as the fullness of ocean is not affected by the entry or non-entry of water, so too the wise person's peace of mind is not affected by the objects that enter the mind. These objects enter into such a person just as water enters the ocean. But he or she is not affected by them because, like ocean, the wise person is full. For no other reason than fullness being his or her own nature. Everyone has this sense of fullness, if only for the time being. When something desirable happens, but eventually the person finds himself or herself not full. Everyone has this sense of fullness, if not for the time being, when something desirable happens. But eventually the person finds himself or herself not full. A wise person, on the other hand, does not depend on anything for his or her fullness because the self is already full, like the ocean. The self is Ananda. It has no limit. Thus, recognition of the self is the very reason for the person being full. I am is fullness. I am fullness. If I am fullness, then the meaning of the word I is not found in a limited factor like the body, mind, or senses. If I am fullness, then the meaning of the word I is not found in the limited factor like the body, mind, or senses. The self is Ananda. It has no limit. Thus, recognition of the self is the very reason for the person's being full. I am is fullness. I am fullness. If I am fullness, then the meaning of the word I is not found in the limited factor like the body, mind, or senses. Therefore, the I should be understood as it is. and it happens to be Ananda. The wise person is the one who is happy without depending upon any object or situation. Like the ocean, he or she is full by his or her own glory, by his or her own nature. The fullness of a wise person, the ananda of the person, is not going to increase because of the entry of some desirable objects. And if such desirable objects do not enter, the wise person does not lose anything. In either case, no change is brought about in the person. He or she remains unchanged. Therefore, the I should be understood as it is, and it happens to be Ananda. The wise person is one who is happy without depending upon any object or situation. Like the ocean, he or she is full by his or her own glory, by his or her own nature. The fullness of wise person, the ananda of the person, is not going to increase because of entry of some desirable objects. And if such desirable objects do not enter, the wise person does not lose anything. In either case, no change is brought about in the person. He or she remains unchanged. If desirable objects enter into the head of person who is not full, they create havoc in the person because they have to be gained, experienced, or owned, and there may be no way of doing so. Therefore, the person smarts, sweats, frets, and fumes. When a person looks upon himself or herself as one who is lacking, desires only cause problems. And if such a person is told to give up all desires, he or she cannot do it unless one is full. Desires cannot be given up. They go away only when the person is full. Even if desires do enter the head of a wise person, they do not create any problems because whether the desires are fulfilled or not, it is all the same to the person. I'll read this paragraph again. If desirable objects enter into the head of a person who is not full, they create havoc in the person because they have to be gained, experienced, or owned, and there may be no way of doing so. Therefore, the person smarts, sweats, frets, and fumes. When a person looks upon himself or herself as one who is lacking, desires only cause problems. And if such a person is told to give up all desires, he or she cannot do it. Unless one is full, desires cannot be given up. They go away only when the person is full. Even if desires do enter the head of a wise person, they do not create any problems because whether the desires are fulfilled or not, it is all the same to the person. The demise of one's emotional yo yo. The word karma in this verse is taken to mean objects. The word karma in this verse is taken to mean objects. Kamyate iti kamaha. They are desired and therefore called kamas. If a person does not know that he or she is Ananda, The person is elated when desirable objects enter and dejected when undesirable objects enter. I'll read this again. If a person does not know that he or she is Ananda, the person is elated when desirable objects enter and dejected when undesirable objects enter. Whereas for the wise person, there is no difference. He or she is Shanti. He or she is Shanti alone, meaning that there is no change in the person whatsoever. The emotional yo yo is no longer there for him or her. There may be a ripple of laughter or even roaring laughter sometimes, just as the ocean seems to be very ecstatic at certain times and simply smiling at other times. There can be a smile, a laugh, or tranquility. For the ocean, the small waves are its smiles, and the huge breakers are its roaring laughter. If it is not roaring with laughter or smiling, is the ocean gone? No, it is tranquil in its fullness. Therefore, it is the fullness that is laughing, the fullness already being there. It can be laughing fullness, smiling fullness, or a tranquil fullness. For the ocean, the small waves are its smiles, and the huge breakers are its roaring laughter. If it is not roaring with laughter or smiling, is the ocean gone? No, it is tranquil in its fullness. Therefore, it is the fullness that is laughing, the fullness already being there. It can be laughing fullness, a smiling fullness, or a tranquil fullness. The other person mentioned in this verse, Kamakami, is one who has desires. This is not to say that he or she has a desire for desires. No one wants to have desires for desires. But this person definitely has desires for desirable objects. Into this person's mind, also sense objects enter, the world enters. When the desirable when the desirable enters, there is elation, and when the undesirable enters, there is depression. In this way, the emotions of the persons go up and down like a yo yo. If a wise person can be linked to an ocean, the otherwise can certainly be linked to be desirable. Sorry, um, if a wise person can be linked to an ocean, the otherwise can be certainly be linked to a miserable pond that we saw in the example. When the rains come, there will be water. Provided there is not too much water or too little, the pond will remain. But if it is flooded or all its water dries up, the pond is gone. Similarly, for one who has binding desires, the entry or non-entry of desirable and undesirable objects bring about changes, which is not the case for the wise person. This verse then gave Arjuna some hope. The previous verses The previous verse was a real description of wise person in the sense that it takes wisdom for you to be wise, and therefore you had better gain this wisdom. This verse then gave Arjuna some hope. The previous verse was a real description of wise person in the sense that it takes wisdom for you to be wise, and therefore you had better gain this wisdom. This was then followed by illustration in the present verse, which likened the wise person to be an ocean. Let all the desirable and undesirable objects enter, like so much water into the ocean. The wise person remains full, and Kamakami does not. Krishna was telling Arjuna here that the one who has binding desires will always have problems, and that by this illustration, Arjuna would know what a wise man is like. Having said this, Krishna then summed up the section on the Sthita Prajna as well as the entire chapter in the next two verses. Do you want to do Manana over here? Okay. Vihaya kaman sarvan puman sharatini. Sorry.
Vihaya kamanya sarvan pumamscharati nispruhaha
निर्ममो निरहङ्कारः स शान्तिमधिगच्छति कामान् विहाय कामान् य सर्वान् पुमां शरति निःस्पृहः निर्ममो निरहङ्कारः स शान्तिमधिगच्छति. I think there is one verse with Vihaya Kaman that the some other chanda, right? Yeah, the one who, Puman, person, Sarvan, all, Kaman, binding desires, Vihaya, having given up, Nispruhaha, devoid of longing, Nirmamaha, without the sense of mind, Nirahankaraha, without the sense of limited I, Charati, moves around, Saha, he, Shantim, peace, Adhigachati, gains. यह पुमान् सर्वान् कामान् विहाय निःस्पृहः निर्ममः निरहङ्कारः चरति सः शान्तिम् अधिगच्छति. Having given up all binding desires, the person who moves around, devoid of longing, without the sense of limited I and mine, gains peace. The wise person is one who has given up all binding desires and who moves freely in the world. Whether the person is a king like Janaka or a sannyasi like Shankara, there is no difference in the freedom of the person. The longing for this or that is gone because the person is happy with himself or herself. There is no more longing for situations in order to be secure and happy. Therefore, the sense of mind is no longer there. Such a person does not have this kind of attachment to anyone or anything. People hold on to certain people and certain objects and look upon them as mine. They are like children who say, "Do not touch this, do not take it away from me. This is my toy." The only difference between the mind we had as children and the mind we have as adults is that the toys have been replaced with other, more sophisticated objects. In fact, we are nothing but bearded grown up children. The mindness never goes, only objects are replaced. Thus, with reference to few things and people, we say, "This is mine." There is no I or mine. However, when I see that the whole thing, everything is myself alone, everything changes. I am the father, the mother, and all the places. When everything is myself, there is no mine. Mine means that yours, his, and hers are also there. These are the reasons for you, for all your problems. You become small in your own eyes when I and mine are no longer there, because you know I am all of this, you are wise. When you say I am all of this, the sense of mine is gone. The I sense is also gone, because when everything is me, there is no I. People think this is vanity, but vanity only exists when you are small. When you say, "I am everything," there is no vanity. Vanity is only with reference to comparison and pride. When you take yourself to be this much, there is quantifying in terms of your possessions, your capacity, your skills, and so on. Then there is ahankara, ego. But when the ego is bloated too much an extent that I am everything, there is no ahankara at all. There is only reality, knowledge, Brahman. Ahankara is nothing but a notion, the I notion. When the reality is I am everything, there is no ego. Ego is only when you compare yourself with another person and say he does not have as much as I have, is ego. But there is no other person at all. All that is there is me. There is no ego, no doer. There is only aham, I. That I am a doer is a notion, whereas I is the self. Therefore, the person under discussion in this verse is one who has no I or mine sense, because everything is himself or herself. If everything is oneness, there is where is the question of having a desire? Knowing this, then the wise person has no binding desires. How a wise person lives in the world. The use of the word charity here is very beautiful. The wise person does not run away from the world. Where would he or she go anyway? Having given up all binding desires, such a person continues to live in the world and may engage himself or herself in a variety of activities. But the activity itself means nothing. The person gains only shanti, meaning that he or she never changes. Other people move around because of the pressure of their desires, whereas the wise person is free from such binding, pressurizing desires. People who are impelled by desires will say, "This has to be done." Only then I can be happy. The only difference between a wise person and these people is that the wise person is motivated but not driven by his or her desires. People who are impelled by desires will say, "This has to be done. Only then I can be happy." The only difference between the wise person and these people is that the wise person is motivated but not driven by his or her desires. In spite of moving around and being active in the world, there is no appreciable inner change brought about in the person either by desire or by its outcome. When the world enters into the sthita prajna, the person is shanta, and when he or she enters into the world, engaging in the activities of the world, then also there is nothing but shanti. This was said because of a doubt that can arise here. It is fine to say that the sthita prajna is full, and when the world enters into such a person, it merely resolves into his or her fullness. He or she just sits in one place in this fullness, and whatever word enters into the person, Shanti alone prevails. What about the wise person who is active? Activity does not change the person's wisdom. There is no change because there is no doership or enjoyership, no I notion in the person. Shanti alone remains. Let the person be engaged in the world or let the world enter into the person. Either way, it is the same. Whether he or she is enjoying or doing, there is Shanti. When the world enters into the person or the person does something, he or she does not become an enjoyer or doer. Enjoyership or doership are both negated in the wise person. Although there is seemingly enjoyership and doership, essentially they are not there. This is what we call badita, meaning that through knowledge, the reality of doership and enjoyership centered on I is sublated. When Krishna talked to Arjuna and when Shankara wrote his commentaries, there was doership. But neither Krishna nor Shankara looked upon themselves as the doer. Doership for the wise person is just doing. The notion I am the doer is not there. This means that the Sthita Prajna continues to be Brahman. Therefore, Krishna concluded, एषा ब्राह्मी स्थितिः पार्थ नैनां प्राप्य विमुह्यति स्थित्वा स्यामन्तकालेऽपि ब्रह्मनिर्वाणमृच्छति एषा ब्राह्मी स्थितिः पार्थ नैनां प्राप्य विमुह्यति एषा ब्राह्मी स्थितिः पार्थ नैनां प्राप्य विमुह्यति स्थित्वा स्यामन्तकालेऽपि ब्रह्मनिर्वाणमृच्छति. Parth, sorry, I think we'll do it tomorrow. It's already 6 o'clock. Do we have time for Manana or should I put the
I think we can all share one, at least one takeaway.
Hari Om. The importance of our daily practices and their role is being realized that until that we have to continue doing our practices, the importance of prasanna chitta and that feeling of fullness, not only that feeling, but I am complete, I have everything, whatever is needed, is so very important. Just the other day was reading about one librarian who had given up her whole provident fund and all salaries and whatever saving he had for the cause of uh, those who were needy. Without, I was just thinking that how big he is. There is no insecurity for his old age or what will happen to him tomorrow. Unlike us, when we have everything, but still we live in that world still more. So I think that Purnatva Bhavana, that feeling of I'm complete, that is so very important. And that Prasanna Chitta, that Apuryamanam Machala Pratishta, like that ocean, which is always full, it doesn't require any rain or any other source of water. That feeling of abundance, that feeling of completeness. Very beautiful. Jai Gurudev.
Very nice. So when the world comes into a sthita prajna, he remains full. Whereas when the world comes into a samsari, becomes agitated because he needs to fulfill it. For him, for the jnani, it is like those desires, this prajahati yada kaman sarvan parthamanogatan atmanyevatmana tushtaha. He's happy with himself by himself. He doesn't need anything else to complete him. And it is not a neutral state of equanimity. It's a joyful state of equanimity. It's ananda. It's that fullness which is scintillating with joy and peace, and nothing is a binding desire. He might still work around, do actions, but he does so without that, the sense of doership and enjoyership. Just like how Krishna was riding the chariot, driving the chariot, giving out the Bhagavad Gita. But he did it from that sense of non doership. Yeah, Loveleen says feeling of abundance helps give up binding desires. Very true. Not only that, it is the practice of santosha that Patanjali talks of. Santosha is a practice, you cultivate it. Gurudev says, be happy. It's a blessing as well as an order.
Or also, when there is no doership, then that ahankara, ego, is sublimated, which is so important. Like it keeps on erupting if you are not aware of yourself. So dropping that doership is very important. Yeah. Like whatever qualities each one has, he think it is mine, but it is not ours. It is, we are just the medium to give to the society, or for other people's need, we can say. Or so whatever, like if you are a very good singer, orator, or uh, it is for the benefits of others, and you are just that virtue is being given to you so that you can spread it further. So it is not mine. It is that when you think that way, that doership is then sublimated.
Should we stop here for today? लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम्। सर्वं कृष्णार्पणमस्तु।
Meditation is accepting this moment, living every moment totally with depth. Let us keep our spine erect and body relaxed and eyes closed. Relax your shoulders. Keep a big smile on your face. You're sitting like the statue of Buddha, very serene and with a serene smile on your face. Relax your body. Let's take a deep breath in and breathe out. Become aware of your chest region, throat and chest region. If you notice some tension in the body, just let it be. Except those parts of the body where you feel a tension, the other parts are in comfort. Other parts are at peace. Become aware of that also. There are many good things about you and inside of you. Acknowledge them. They will never leave you. And the negative aspect you may see in you is never going to stay with you forever. They are all guests for some time. Let them be. Sit with the total acceptance of yourself the way you are at this very moment. Total acceptance of what is now here. Lead us to deeper meditation. Let go of all the effort. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let go of all your effort and be in this emptiness. And slowly and gradually become aware of body and surroundings. And you may gently open your